But let me go right to that. In Bill's story, he says, because we're getting near the time now, so we got to, if you can hurry up and have that spiritual awakening so we can get to the shares, I'd appreciate that. So anyway, and you'll hear in the shares, some people actually have it during the meeting. So it says, Bill says, after he goes through the steps, this is what Bill says. He says, is a design for living that works in rough going. The design, the perception change. And he also says here, that just on page 15, towards the bottom of the page, the joy of living we really have even under pressure and difficulty. I have seen hundreds of families set their feet straight. Anyway, he goes on to say, the most impossible, listen to this, domestic situations, again, are problems. Look, whenever you have a problem today, it's related to people. Believe me, think about it. It's our relationship to people, and feuds and bitterness of all sorts wiped out. And you want to know something? I can add to this and just say, if it's not wiped out, look, when I'm centered, people around me change. I'm not trying to control them anymore, and they just see in a momentary thing that I'm not a threat to them, that I understand and have comprehension, love, and tolerance. That's our code here, right? It talks of those are the watchwords in Two Wives. It talks about that on page 118. So it says here, there is scarcely any form of trouble and misery. This is on the bottom of page 15 of Bill's story, which has not been overcome among us. The misery and all the things, it's all false. It's our perception. It's when we have that spiritual awakening, we have that God consciousness. Forgive them for they know not what they do, right? They're people running around like a chicken without a head. They say if you try to figure out a crazy person, you become crazy. So we have a better way. It's interesting. When I came in this program, I was depressed. I was anxious, and I had medical problems. I had the alcohol. I had the food addiction. I had the psychological, mental problems. But the so-called normal people that were in my life, I says, wow, they're pretty normal. But, it's like the 95-pound weakling, who all of a sudden becomes a Mr. America. He works out. We have a spiritual muscle. The more we get in this program, we do these steps, we change. And all of a sudden, I start looking at some of these people. I said, hey, they're running around like a chicken without a head. They're getting upset, angry, and they're getting all these issues and problems in their life, and they're making it all about them, right? When we get out of the self, we can even accept our own death. Look, there's nothing you can't accept. It's the perception. But yet, some people get a flat tire and they want to kill themselves. It's the perception change. When I used to have problems, I used to tell like 10 people, a lot of them said, well, they look at me like, why are you so worried about that? We could have 10 people here where we have over 35, 40 people, and they could all have a different perception. So our perception when we do these steps of spiritual awakening is that God consciousness, which was in us. We have a source within us. We bury with the defects of character, guilt, the shame, the remorse, right? The pride, the envy, the jealousy, right? And then we use gluttony, making food a higher power, making people a higher power. We have that spiritual awakening, and I say, let's get it right now. So you just have that perception change. And you know something else? Let me tell you this. If you don't get the perception change, at least know the truth from the false. Look, 90% of it is this. If you're depressed during the day, or anxious or upset, or you get hungry, right? Because that's what we're talking about here. Just realize, okay, that hunger is a false thing. It's coming from the self. When we get out of the self, and this whole program is about that resentment, anger, we could observe it. We just observe it. We feel it, but we don't resist it. It's because we know the truth from the false. The truth is really the joy and the happiness, the blissful nature that God created for us. Because when we get centered, that's it. It's like we won the lottery. But no, we take it upon ourselves when we were younger, most of us, and that's why we had to drink and eat obsessively, that no, it's all about me. If somebody says something to me, it's all about me. I always say, I used to think if a person was walking in front of me, they were following me. All these little plans and designs and the idea about the self, the getting out of the self. Step 3 says, well, let me just read that, and then we're going to go to the shares quickly. But on page 63, if I could find it here, it says, and this is what it says. Step 3 says it right here. So this is what happens. In the middle of the paragraph, it says, as we felt new power flow in, new power, okay, being reborn, renewed in spirit, we enjoyed peace of mind. We discovered we could face life successfully. As we became conscious of His presence, we began to lose fear of today, tomorrow, hereafter. We're reborn. And it says the first step, this program is so simple, but we complicated it. Here it is in step 3. Step 3 prayer on page 63. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me, do with me as thou wilt. And it goes on and on there. The whole thing is, so long as my higher power is not me. We have this source within us. We were created in this image. We were made to be in perfection. We were made to be perfect in joy and happiness. Just think about it. The only misery is here. It's in our mind, If we come from the energy and the source. Don't believe, I went to a meeting, I'll end with this, and the guy says, he goes, look, he says, I wake up in the morning, I have a thought, I don't believe it. He goes, and then I have a second thought, and he goes, I don't believe that either, right? And he also said, if I have a problem today, I'm the problem. So long as we know where the problem is, before I never knew where the problem is. So anyway,